So today I'm going to go through sort of three key indicators to know whether you're ready for your first web dev job. So I'm assuming you're an aspiring or junior web developer. And if you're like me, have gone through Free Code Camp or Codecademy or any of the sort of online resources, learning to code is a little bit difficult to know whether you're ready for, I guess, sort of putting your CV out there and getting technical interviews. I for sure know I have a few stories of, putting my CV out there. Actually was kind of successful getting some interviews and tech tests and sort of live pairing coding, and then basically found very quickly that I didn't know, let's say, React or even JavaScript to the depth that was be required for my first job. And yeah, it was quite interesting. It's a good learning experience, but if I'd have had these three sort of indicators, then that would have been a lot easier. And sort of I'm going to go up in complexity. But yeah, we'll go through it anyway. So basically the first one is if you just know simple, very simple algorithm and data structures. So in JavaScript, I'm assuming, obviously on the channel, you're a front-end developer, you need to be quite comfortable working with arrays and objects, really. Obviously, these are the most common data structures. So I guess, basically you work with them all day, every day, right? And even to this day, I'm sort of still trying to learn and get to grips with some more like difficult nested objects and arrays and manipulating data. So even today, it took a little while to sort of figure out how to have one array of objects and nested objects, and then just get that to a single array of different objects, but nested under sort of one level rather than multiple. Based on different IDs and lots of different checks basically, and it can get quite confusing. So I would say, just having, and if I just sort of write this out, sort of understand sort of arrays and objects and sort of how to work with them really. So that would include, the array methods of map and find and all of that kind of thing. And obviously within objects, and reduce as well, like some of the other methods effectively that you might use on arrays. So for example, you might have 1 2 3, and if you want to reduce that down to a single value of 6, with all of the sum of all of these, like what's the best way to do that? You could, let's say, loop through them all and add it to an incrementer, or you could just reduce the whole array in sort of one go. And there's pros and cons to each method, and there's probably 10 ways to do that. But that's just an example of arrays. And then very similarly for objects, it's a case of, let's say, having a bunch of objects, and if you can imagine, there's like loads of nesting as well. I'm not doing a very good job perhaps of showing this all out. But, as you can see here, let's just call it like key and then value. I'm just going to copy this for a bunch of them. So the ones that we have, let's just say you want to create a new object which just has the object like so. So that will be like this, and that then will be like that as well. And one thing I really like about this jsfiddle.net is that you can tidy, and it just formats it nicely as well. So kind of similar to the format on Save. Obviously, this shouldn't be called key, and this probably shouldn't be called value, as I'm assuming they're kind of reserved keywords or something. But yeah, if you can kind of do that and work with objects, you're well on your way. For when it perhaps on the job it's a bit more difficult and you need to work with data, because that's basically all we're doing as front-end developers, as well as the sort of the CSS and the nice sort of structure of things. We want to be able to obviously work with the data and then render that to the page ideally, or within the application. So that's kind of an example of objects there. So if you can work with those, you're well on your way. The second point I would say, and I'm just going to put that here, is sort of work through the 100 algorithms challenge. And this one here is a totally free repository by Dylan Israel. So I also went through Free Code Camp, and actually someone that I was watching quite a bit of his YouTube. He isn't sort of active anymore. I think he just does mentorship, but yeah, he has a lot of good advice basically on his channel as a fellow self-taught developer. And one of the repos, which I'll link below, is the 100 algorithms challenge. And as you can see here, it's just 100 different algorithms. And I've been going through these and sort of have done probably only actually up to, I think, was it crossing some. So yeah, there's still a bunch more for me to do. But I've done quite a lot of these through Free Code Camp and other resources as well. But I would say if you can even just do sort of, let's say, do 5 or 10 and just see how you get on. Just as an example, all longest strings, it'll normally have a sort of a prompt. So input array and what the output should be. And there's some information here about time complexity and how you should do it. You can kind of ignore that. Sometimes there's hints, but I would basically just take this, and that's what often I've done before, and sort of have my own repository for some of these as well. Just pop them into here, sort of do that. And basically I would then just try and get the output to be like this from this input. Basically, yeah, just trying to, sort of come up with a solution, and it really gets you sort of thinking, I guess, differently about JavaScript, and just making sure that at the nitty-gritty level, you understand the language and you kind of have command over, as I said, more probably objects and arrays, and just using different properties and methods to sort of get to the bottom of the problem, or at least coming up with 1 or 2 solutions as well. Often I have alternative solutions to a lot of the algorithms that I was creating, also sort of solving, and that just helps as well. Often in web development you'll find there's actually multiple ways to do the same thing, so it's kind of just figuring out the best method and sort of either the cleanest or also just the most performant as well, and that's a big plus. So number 3 is just, so I'd say deeply understanding the framework. And I call it a framework or library, I guess it could be. And the reason I say that is certainly within the UK, and I'm pretty sure like globally, if you're using JavaScript or you're working on the front end, you'll be using one of the big, let's say 5 JavaScript frameworks, whether that's Angular, Vue, React. Obviously within React you might have Next.js or Gatsby, probably Next.js. That's what I've used in the past. But yeah, bunch of frameworks and libraries, and there's loads of new ones. So Svelte, I guess, would be up there as 4th, and then 5th you can kind of pick any JavaScript framework out of Solid, Quick. Goodness, there's so many now, and they keep coming, but I would just focus on 1 or 2 perhaps at most, that you can really understand, apply, and then if you get given a tech test, which will probably be in that framework or library that the company are using, so for example I was doing a lot of React, you'll then you'll be in a much better stead to not only smash that, but just basically complete the tech test. And all of my technical tests have been in, as I said, the framework or library that the company use. And basically this is a warning for a horror story where I went into a live coding interview. So it was pair programming in a similar IDE, and the other person could kind of see my code as I was writing it whilst on video. And I thought I knew React, and I'd watched a bunch of courses and kind of done all the follow-alongs, but I'd never really created my own React site. And it's kind of funny now, it should be super simple. I was just meant to be calling an API and rendering some data on a page, basically mapping through it, right? And all that kind of thing, which, do all the time now with data at work. But for some reason mine went blank, and I just couldn't figure out even just to call the API, which was kind of funny because, done it 1,000 times, probably, or, certainly hundreds up to that point, and many more since. And sometimes you do just freeze up. So basically not only having a deep understanding, but having a bunch of projects in those frameworks so that you have the repetition, and sort of keep building in that. So, I've created now many React applications, small and large. It can be as simple as just taking, let's say, an emoji API and just rendering the top 5 emojis on a page. Obviously then it could be more complicated where you're doing loads of different things with data and merging things, and having obviously a nice dashboard, for example. But I'd say understanding the framework and library is kind of like the final check to make sure that you're ready for that first role, if it is in with one of those frameworks or libraries. So basically, which one you learn is very much dependent on perhaps your location, what job you're looking for. If it's React, I'd learn React and Next.js, and kind of apply for those roles. That certainly put me in good stead since I started learning to code back in the summer of 2020. I've basically been working as a front end or full stack developer since kind of sort of 14 months later when I got my first job in 2021. So yeah, those are I guess the three main tips that I'd have to know if you're interview ready. And I guess if you've made it this far, thank you for watching. And if you're interested as well, you might see below I am currently offering free consulting sessions for any aspiring or junior developers, kind of my way to give back to the community. I certainly have gained a lot, as I said, through Dylan Israel and other channels on YouTube with their free advice. And I'd like to kind of give back and sort of help out others as well, whether that be through a CV review, portfolio, LinkedIn, for example. I've done a couple now, and I think I'm providing real value. And a few of my, I guess, students, you could call them, hopefully will be getting their first jobs very soon based on the advice that I've given. So yeah, if you would like to book in a free call with me, just hit the link below. That'll take you to my calendar and you can book that in. And yeah, if you just send over a little bit of information about yourself, what you're looking for, that would really help. And then I can, obviously provide the best advice that I can and kind of help you through that process. So yeah, good luck with it all either way. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video.